I see it coming up there in the corner. We're live now, so let's go ahead and get rolling. I have three friends here, guys, that I am honored to have in my Rolodex or my iPhone contacts that I can call and lean on. And I'm leaning on them today to share their amazing knowledge, things that they do, best practices, but really to create a conversation amongst Kentucky PGA members and some subject matter experts from both inside and outside of Kentucky. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and our guest from furthest away today, Mr. Noel Gebauer from the Northeast New York section. Noel, please go ahead and give us your 2-minute elevator speech, please.
Well, thank you, Kelly, and certainly flattered that you asked to be part of today's conversation. Hello, everybody in Kentucky, and up here in New York, we're not quite as cold as you might think, so we're definitely enjoying that. As Kelly said, my name's Noel Gebauer, 27-year PGA member. Been through the chairs in the PGA section. Was able to serve with Tony and Kelly on the national board a few years back now, and that certainly was a great time. And consider them both really good friends. But probably more pertinent to today's conversation, a little bit of information about my facility. I'm the general manager and head professional at the Colony Town Golf Course, which is Colony's a suburb just outside of Albany, New York. And we're a 36-hole municipally owned and operated facility. For upstate New York, we are a factory. We'll do about 60 to 70,000 rounds a year. Host 37 leagues, 50 or so outings, totally daily fee. We don't have a membership. So it really is a place where you would see turnstiles as you're going out to the first tee. But it is a great spot. We do the best we can to, which we'll talk about, to keep a first-class experience there. We've been host for the last a little more than 10 years now to the Northeast New York PGA section office. We host PGA Hope programs. So with that, we're high traffic, low cost, but certainly serve a great purpose in the Northeast New York golf landscape.
Noel, I'm shocked you have any hair left at all with that many rounds.
It's going fast, Kelly.
Congratulations on making it this far. Next up on our panel today, if you haven't opened your mailbox lately, you'll see his mug right on the front of the PGA magazine as our Golf Professional of the Year for 2024, Mr. Tony Pancake, with a ton of ties to the Kentucky section as well. So, Tony, I'll turn it over to you to tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, good morning, Kelly. Thanks for having me, and hello to everyone. I'm actually broadcasting from San Jose del Cabo, Mexico. My wife Libby and I are down here on a vacation. We do that. We've done this 15 years in a row, and it's an opportunity for the two of us to just kind of relax and recharge going into the next season. But we also spend a lot of time working on our marriage here, and I want to talk about that some towards the end of our presentation today. But we spend all this time working on our careers and being better golf professionals, which obviously is important and a big part of today. But taking care of your relationship with your wife and your kids, that's even more important than that. So Libby and I have been doing this for 15 years, and it's a special week for us. But I'm really glad to join you today. From a career standpoint, I started there in the Kentucky section back in 1988. As the second golf professional there at Valhalla. And I was there through the PGA Championship in '96, and then spent 1 year at Hurstbourne Country Club before moving to Baltimore, Maryland. And I was 6 years as the director of golf at the Baltimore Country Club. BCC was a 36-hole facility with 40-some thousand rounds, very busy club compared to Valhalla. And then in 2004, we moved back to Indiana, which is where both my wife and I are from. And I've been at the Crooked Stick Golf Club since then. Crooked Stick is a lot like Valhalla in terms of numbers. We have 225 members. Historically, we played around 16,000 rounds, but with COVID, we jumped up to 23,000 This past year, we played 19,000 rounds. It was Pete Dye's home golf course, I would say. He and his wife, Alice, lived on the 18th hole. So we've hosted a lot of national championships there. And it's a true golf club, really a pretty cool place to work. My wife, Libby, and I have been married for 36 years. We've been blessed with 4 children, all of whom are pretty much grown. Our baby, Annabelle, is a senior at Clemson University, where she plays on the golf team there. And we're also blessed with 5 grandkids. So
Wow.
Good to be with everybody today.
Congrats. Yeah, Annabelle, I'll always remember she kind of had her coming out party at the PGA Girls Junior Championship here in Lexington at Kearney Hills. I don't know if she shot like 16 or 18 under. She made more birdies there in 3 days than I've made in my whole lifetime of playing there. But it was pretty special to watch Tony and Libby walk along cheering their daughter on that week. So I'll never forget that. And congratulations to you all on a great family there. So it's tough to lead with our out of town guests, but to follow here, we've got a major championship in Kentucky this year. And head golf professional from Valhalla, Kyle Kramer, is a hidden gem here in our home section. Kyle, that's a lot of intro already. What else do you want us to know about Kyle Kramer today?
Well, thanks for having me, Kelly, and honored to be a part of this panel, especially with these 2 legends that you were just introduced to. So, well, my name is Kyle Kramer. I'm the head golf professional here at Valhalla Golf Club. I'm entering my fifth season here in Louisville. So the Kentucky section in Louisville has been very welcoming to me and my family, and very blessed to be here. My wife, Lauren, and I, we met while I was an assistant golf professional at Fort Wayne Country Club. She was on the IUPUI golf team. So we met through golf. And we spent a little bit of time out in Washington, D.C. working while I was at Congressional. She was actually an assistant golf professional at Kenwood Country Club there. Before I was lucky enough that Tony had an opening back at Crooked Stick. And similar to him, we were able to move back closer to home. And I worked for Tony for 2 years before getting my first head golf professional job at Chatham Hills in Westfield, Indiana. And really just had a wonderful opportunity when the job opened here at Valhalla. And I was fortunate enough to get the position here. And now we're hosting the major championship this year, which is exciting for the club and our members. And I know especially for our new owners, Jamie Kirchdorfer and his partners, they are very excited to show off what they've invested here into the club and the community.
Fantastic. Well, let's go ahead and launch right on into the business of the day, and I'm going to stick to the same order, and then I'm going to go backwards on question 2. But Noel, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your management philosophy, just kind of leadership and how you handle. I know you've got you kind of oversee the entire facility there. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's funny. When I saw the question, I thought about it a lot, and I think probably the best that I could come up with is that you have to be a bit of a chameleon with your management style, especially at a municipal golf course. The main part of my job is really putting out fires, and I know that's true for all of us a lot of times. But it's you kind of set up your procedures and policies for your staff. And then open the gates in the morning and then just sort of hang on all day. And it's, and you have to, both management with the staff and also management, kind of up the chain where you have to manage, politicians and board members and things like that with the munis to get the resources that you need. You have to sort of switch around and try to get people motivated the best you can, and certainly people are motivated differently. So it's you kind of tailor that to the situation, and you tailor it to the people that you're trying to manage.
Yeah, I remember one of those challenges you told me about in a conversation. You had one of your primary mower operators was kind of taken off like the whole month of June, but because you were a municipality and he had the time off, there wasn't much you could do about it. So you had to find somebody else to mow, I guess. Yeah.
And there is nothing you can do about it. That's sort of an odd municipal, problem that we have. You know, another one, for example, that's probably similar to a lot of private operators is I went from having a town supervisor who knew nothing about golf. They were a retired school teacher. And she was great, but didn't really have an appreciation for it. The next person that got elected into the town supervisor spot, who I currently have, was the ex-president of the most exclusive club in Northeastern New York. So I thought I was in business, you know, and now we're talking. I've got a golfer in there, but that presented a whole different challenge because now, you know, he didn't really understand why the municipal golf course didn't look like his club in a lot of our the ways we managed and operated. So that was a learning curve for him. You know, and trying to deal with him and work with him that way to make him understand and to still try to sell what I needed to sell to, you know, to keep the place thriving.
Awesome. Awesome. So, Tony, on to you. And I've had the privilege of having you show me around the club there and what a tour, but you obviously have total and complete control, or at least it appears that way. How do you achieve that?
Yeah, it was sure good having you there that day, Kelly. I would characterize our kind of leadership model more as a servant leadership model that we try to use there at the club. And what I mean by that is that while we all have different roles and different titles and different levels of experience, we're all in a team that we're working towards the same goal of really taking care of people when they're at Crooked Stick. So we all jump in and help no matter what needs to be done, and we try to support each other. I would say I rarely use my role at the club to tell people how to do their job or what to do. I really kind of let them do it the way they want to, because I can learn from them. Then as a staff, we can all learn from each other and again, just help each other out. There are times that I'm out cleaning golf clubs. There are times that maybe I'm picking the range. I definitely spend a lot of time on the first tee starting. I'm a ranger on the weekends. So those aren't typical roles that you would think of for a director of golf, but you know, that's just how we do it at Crooked Stick. We all kind of share in the responsibilities, and it's a great way for me to stay connected to our membership. And it's a great way for me to mentor the staff so that they can see me in some of those roles, and then maybe they can learn a few things from my 30-some years of experience. One other thing that's been successful for us, and all these ideas are not my own, by the way. There's things that great professionals have been kind enough to share with me, but I try to give every staff member some area of responsibility. So there'll be someone that's in charge of tournaments, and not only do I want them to manage tournaments, but I also want them to take a leadership role so they can get used to managing people and get the rest of the staff around them to support them. There'll be somebody else in charge of merchandising, someone else in charge of junior golf. And so it's not just me in charge of everything or my lead assistant in charge of everything. We're trying to kind of share those roles a little bit and then give people some experience managing, because when you become a head golf professional, you've got to have some experience knowing how to manage people.
Absolutely. And clearly you communicate with your team a lot of one-on-one when you're kind of out there in the trenches with them. Do you have a formal communication strategy that you're utilizing, or do you have a multiple ways to reach out to those folks when you have a message that needs to be delivered?
Yeah, we try to have a weekly staff meeting, and I'll do that as director of operations. I have the key department managers reporting to me. So we'll meet once a week with all the key department managers, and then we'll also have a once a week golf shop staff meeting. But then, as you say, I'm interacting with the staff on a daily basis and really trying to help them get better, help improve our operation. So that's not really formal meetings, but it's just an opportunity for me to connect with them. And I know the things that they're working on, trying to go to the next level. One of the things Kyle, I'm sure, would remember this. When you come to Crooked Stick to work, I tell you right away, I want you interviewing for your next job starting today. And that means the first step in that interview is to do a great job here at Crooked Stick, but be working on whatever skills you need to be a well-rounded golf professional. And I know what those things are that the staff's trying to work on. So just trying to communicate with them, whether it's daily, every other day, a couple times a week, trying to help them get better.
Fantastic. Well, and Kyle, I'll let you kind of back clean up here from a leadership standpoint, and then you can go ahead and launch into some staffing, team building if you'd like to, once you're done there.
All right. Yeah. I would say, the management philosophy, I was thinking, as a young professional and kind of when I first jumped into my first head professional job at Chatham, it's definitely something I've learned through failure, right? So, and I remember sitting with Tony oftentimes, and he would always tell me the hardest part about being a head golf professional is managing people. And I think about that constantly. But as I've grown and luckily, have great assistants around me to make me look good. My philosophy is really just to empower them. We sit down at the beginning of each year and we'll go through we'll make a list of our entire operation, and then we'll kind of shift out those responsibilities, similar to what Tony was saying, but we really try to be somewhat detailed there. So off the bat, the staff understands what their role is. And then from there, I really don't micromanage. I really try to stay out of their way, let them find the best way to accomplish those tasks within our mission statement. So we've really been trying to, I've really learned lately is putting the employee first has really helped our operation. I think that, when we show that I care, that our management team cares, the owners care about them, they do a better job of taking care of our members. They feel a part of the team and they're willing to put in that extra time and go out of their way to be a servant leader here at the club.
Well, you touched on something there I think is huge, is showing the staff that you care. And now more than ever, it's been challenging to find the team members that you need to do the job on a daily basis. And I really say that to all three of our panelists. You kind of know where I'm going next. How are you finding those team members? Is it easy because you're at Valhalla and Crooked Stick that people want to be there, whereas maybe at Town Colony it's a little bit different? But Kyle, how are you identifying and finding that help, and do you have enough of it?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, we are lucky here at Valhalla. We're blessed to be in the national spotlight. We have the PGA Championship coming up, so that certainly helps recruiting good talent. But what I found when I first got here, I would say we brought in more interns each season than what we probably needed. I really went out and went to the universities, found additional 3 months interns. So we've been carrying 4 to 5 interns a season. And my thought process behind that is, you're not going to hit on every single one, as everybody knows, when you hire somebody, hopefully you're batting 75%. But what I found is we've been able to kind of grow our own little pool here through the interns of assistant golf professionals when they graduate, wanting to come back. And that's where I found we've had success with our staffing, especially for this year. Nick Hyman, one of our lead assistants, was an intern for me in my first year, and recognized pretty quick he was just a great young guy, had a servant mentality, and has really grown a lot and has become a great golf professional for us here. And other than that, we've really just been leaning on other professionals that I trust and respect. They've been nice enough to, for this year, we have 2 seasonal golf professionals coming in, and Tony was nice enough to introduce me to one of them, Seth Sheriff, and then another one, Jack Benoit, he's been at Whispering Pines. I've developed a good relationship with Chris Rowe down there as well. So really just growing my network and trying to take care of when they get here. So the word gets out that Valhalla is a good place to work.
I'm going to stick with you for just one more minute here, Kyle. Do you all do any sort of recognition with your staff? Is there an employee of the period, if you will, quarter, month, week, whatever, or how do you celebrate achievements?
That's one thing I wrote down on my notes here, that I need to do a better job of putting a formal recognition process. And that's something we don't have. As a company, as Valhalla, we do have, an employee of the year. But I would say what we try to do is really kind of going back to a Disney line where it's, you know, really the good show, bad show. We're really in the moment, try to recognize our employees when they do something great. We share emails that we get from members and staff and a guest coming in. So we try to send that out to the entire staff. And you know, if Nick gets called out in an email that he went above and beyond, we send that to the entire staff to recognize him.
That's great. Yeah, I think oftentimes that's more impactful than picking one person out of 10 who are all doing a great job to win something. Just being able to recognize everybody in the throws is fantastic. Tony, kind of coming back to you on staffing, training, recognition, what might you add to the conversation?
Yeah, it's the biggest issue we face as head golf professionals or directors of golf right now, at least in my opinion. 10 years ago, if I had an internship opportunity available, I might get 25 or 30 resumes. Now I might get 5. And there's a limited pool of people out there. So we've tried to be more competitive by offering things like housing and some stuff like that. We've also tried to be a little bit more proactive. So if you're an intern for me, the last assignment I give you is to go back to school and identify 2 or 3 candidates that are in the class behind you that would be a good fit for the culture that we have at Crooked Stick. And that normally gives me a couple names or a couple people that I could potentially consider. The other thing is similar to what Kyle said. It's just the networking. Anytime we're looking for an assistant golf professional, I reach out to the network of professionals that I know. And, you know, I would encourage everyone on this call today to always be trying to expand your network. I mean, when you go to a pro-am with some members of yours, to get to know the staff there, not just the head professional, but the assistant professionals as well, because that might be an opportunity for you to meet somebody that you're really impressed with, and might shorten the hiring process the next time you need to hire someone. I did want to share one other idea that, you know, there's just so many ways to gather new ideas. But a couple of years ago, I was attending a basketball game at Butler, and at halftime, they brought out a lady who had been selling tickets there for 30 years, and they recognized her. She got a standing ovation. They gave her a signed basketball, and all this stuff. And I thought, I mean, what a special night for her. And so we started doing something similar to that at Crooked Stick. So I'll pick 2 longtime staff members each year, and then we'll identify an event. So it might be, say, our Black Tee Championship, or it might be our Better Ball Championship. And I will basically recognize a longtime staff member as part of that event. So we do a bio on them and put that on the rule sheet. We have them on the first tee so that they can meet all the people before they tee off, or if it's a shotgun, they'll be on the range and be introduced at that time. And then I have them at the scoreboard at the end, so with their family. And it just gives the members a chance to say thank you to them. We recognize them with a special gift. We give them a $250 gift certificate to take their family to dinner. And it's just a special day for them to be recognized. It's encouraging not only to the staff, but the membership as well. And, you know, I stole the idea from a Butler basketball game.
Well, I'm going to steal it from you. So whatever you've got there, I'm asking you to email me the format so I don't miss a single detail of that. I absolutely love the idea, and I can't wait to do it myself. And I'm going to ask you about the Black Tee Championship later on too, because I want to know more there. Noel, staffing, I imagine, is harder there than anywhere, right? So tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, in ways it is, and in ways it may not be. It's definitely an issue, more so than ever. You know, our staffing template is a bit, you know, strange being municipal. I've got about 60 to 70 golf operation employees, all of which probably average 15 to 18 hours a week. They are, you know, retired folks that dreamed of working at a golf course when they retired. So I've got a lot of them as starters and rangers and working in the shop. Some working on our cart staff, although that mostly consists of a lot of high school and college students who are working part-time. And of course, in the old days, the part-time help you had, that were the kids anyway, would work 30 hours because they needed the money. Now there's a whole different dynamic there. They don't even want to work, they want to work 2 days a week and that's it, because they've got a whole other life that they have to get on with. So scheduling is impossible, and finding enough is really difficult. So, I've done everything from, to try to recruit. I've been to high school job fairs. I've been to, I've given clinics to seniors, golf clinics, and then tried to throw, almost like a promotion, in there for coming to work. So it has been difficult to recruit, and just because of, numbers wise, we have so many positions that we have to fill. Luckily, assistant professional wise, I've been pretty good. We're a very entry level position. The template for both our positions are you do well here, you'll learn the muni business, and then if you want to try another aspect, I'm going to call you, Tony, or Kyle, and say, hey, I've got a good guy, love to try a different aspect, and and move them on from there. And because I've been able to do that with some, I've had, Derek has helped me out at Sawgrass. I've moved a couple up there right from our place. So it was because there's that path, I tend to recruit some pretty good entry level positions. So it's it's using those connections for sure. To start either getting some good ones in or moving them on to keep the flow going.
Awesome. Tony, I'm going to come to you next on member service, but before we're done with Noel here, clearly you're developing a reputation within the section that you're building up and training folks who want to move on to yet another level. And is there anything formal that happens, or is the word just kind of out there organically that, hey, go work for Noel, get your start there, and there's no telling where you might end up? Is it one or the other, would you say?
It's definitely not formal. And I think that's probably the best way. I think having it come out organically, I think is good. It's fairly obvious the track that some of my assistants have taken. So it's, it leads to some, we all have some that are, it's tough letting them go. There's no doubt. You have one that worked, for you for a year, and he was great. And it was like, okay, I'm going to move you on because you're ready. Moved him to a local private club that he got some great experience at. But boy, it was hard, getting rid of him. It's definitely organic, and I think that's probably the way it is. Whether it's doing what we do, or whether it's replacing assistant coaches in the NFL. Who do you want to work for? What organization do you want to be with that can further your career?
Fantastic. Yeah. And I would want to work for Noel Gebauer if I had the chance as well. So that's the kind of guy.
Well, when you retire, I got a spot for you.
I can't wait. I don't know if I can shovel that much snow is the problem. So Tony, again, from the second you get out of the cart, Crooked Stick, the member experience or the guest experience is just phenomenal. What are you most proud of in your ability to offer and execute on that? And how do you do it?
Yeah, it's actually, I think it might be where we can add the most value to a facility as a PGA golf professional. And the reason I say that, Kelly, is that, there's a lot of smart people that are members of these clubs, but none of them have the experience or the institutional knowledge of what a golf experience should look like. And we can really bring great value to a club in that by helping them identify what that experience should be. So what I've tried to do is go around to great places and watch other operations and learn from them and pick out the things that I thought would be a really good fit for what we're trying to accomplish at Crooked Stick. And no two clubs are alike. I've been at Valhalla, Hurstbourne, Baltimore Country Club, and Crooked Stick. They're all four different. But in each case, I tried to develop a vision for the golf experience that I could share with our club leadership and with our staff. And then we all kind of knew what the expectation was. Then we just worked together for what that might look like. And that vision starts with how you answer the telephone, how you handle people at the bag drop. As you experienced at Crooked Stick, one of the things that we try to do there is anytime a guest comes, we try to give them a tour of the facility. The club's fortunate in 60 years' time to have some great history there with a lot of national championships. So we walk you through the championship hallway. We've got the original Crooked Stick right there to see where the name of the club came from, and Pete Dye's drawings of the golf course. And so just to show people around, and it gives us a chance to show off the club. It makes people feel special. It also is an opportunity for us to help educate guests on what we expect of them relative to cell phones or hats in the clubhouse or shirts tucked in, things like that. So we use it in a lot of different ways, but that goes to how we set up the range, how we stage a golf cart. All those things are part of a vision of the golf experience that I've accumulated over the years. And, I rely on my staff a lot to help us figure out what that vision is going to look like. And then we agree, this is what we're going to try to do. And then we try to deliver that every day.
Where is that vision shared, and is it on a wall somewhere? Is it in an employee manual? Is it verbal? How do you get everybody on that page?
Yeah, it's something that we have it written down. It's something that we send to any prospective employee because we want them to understand from the very beginning what we're kind of expecting them to help us deliver. And then when we hire somebody, obviously we delve into that in a lot greater detail. Everybody has one of those in an operations manual, but it doesn't take long to figure it out. And quite honestly, it's all so natural because we're golfers and we're around the game all the time. And we know what it feels like to walk on a really special range and to see the balls. We want new Titleist Pro V1 balls on the range, and we want them staged in a special way. So we put them in den caddies, and just how the targets are marked and things like that. So we've tried to, again, identify what are important aspects of our experience at Crooked Stick. Pace of play is extremely important for us. People don't want to play in 4 hours, so we've got Crooked Stick 355. That means we're trying to play golf in 3 hours and 55 minutes. And there's a lot of things we do to ensure that happens. The person starting on the first tee, our play coordinator, helping deciding where people are going to tee off. Are they going to go off 1, 12, 10? Just to how to get them around the course without having to wait. How the staff rangers the course, all that stuff. But it's just things that you've experienced when you've played golf at other places. And it's just so natural to an employee to make it all happen.
Yeah, super, super. So Noel, offering a member or a customer service in a municipal setting is equally, if not more important, because they can take their money and plunk it on a counter somewhere else. So how do you keep them coming back, and what is that experience? Your knack, you've been doing it a long time there. How you been successful? And you're still muted there, Noel.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Very similar to what Tony said. I've seen some things at some great municipal golf courses, and learned a lot over the years, tried to incorporate that to the best that I can with the budget that I have. Trying to, this even goes back to the management style a little bit. I like to try to instill in my seasonal part-time staff, hey, be proud. If I can get them to be proud of the product that we produce, and try to tell them, hey, this is just like the $120 greens fee down the road, the experience that they get. We're trying to give that to the folks at our place for $50. So it's really is about trying to give them the best experience they can for the money that they pay. And if we can do a better job with that, then they will certainly come in. I mean, we pride ourselves with taking care of our residents of the town because it's a town-owned facility, but I pride myself on how many non-resident greens fees we do every year. Because that means we're bringing people in at that higher rate, and they still feel that that's a value to them, and that we offer something they can't get elsewhere at a lot of the privately owned public golf courses or the other municipal golf courses. And in some cases, even some of the private clubs, they'll come in and they'll say, hey, if I can get, a tournament program at your place and, the instruction at your place, then maybe I should be here as opposed to being at the private club down the street, so it's definitely competitive, which is difficult sometimes. That's a challenge to convince the, some of the town brass, because they see it as a resident service. But we definitely live in a competitive arena for sure within the golf industry.
Well, while Kyle has a chance to touch on the same question, Noel, I want you to think of what is one thing that you all are doing that you think maybe somebody else in this call is not doing that they should be, to keep customers coming back in the public setting. And I'll let you think about that for a minute while Kyle adds anything that could possibly be left unsaid behind the two of you.
That's right. Well, they got most of it covered. I would say here at Valhalla, we've been, since the club sold in 22 to a group from the PGA of America to 4 partners, and the main one being Jimmy Kirchdorfer. And so, we've really kind of gone through a change here at the club of what our mission is and what our philosophies are. So, we've been challenged as a staff to make Valhalla a great club. It's always been a great golf course, but, maybe not the best club for the members. So that's been our main focus for the last 2 years. And where it comes down from golf, very similar to what Tony and Noel were saying, we've created a vision for the golf experience. And, we really try to make sure that those details are visible for the staff to see. They know the expectations, exactly what Tony was saying as far as the range setup to the ranger experience. But the one thing we've really tried to focus on is how our staff makes the member and guest feel. And obviously, how the range is presented, how the trash cans on the golf course, the water on the golf course, those things, I would say members and guests don't necessarily remember specifics, but they remember how those things make them feel. Same with our staff. If we do have a pace of play issue, is that ranger trained well enough to kind of give someone bad news that they're playing slow without, ruining their day, right? And how can we actually turn that into a positive? So that's been our main focus point, is just really sticking to, our tagline is we want to provide a golf experience you can only find here in Kentucky. And that means, this Southern hospitality. So that's been a major focus for us. And I've been really proud of our staff, because most of the emails we get from other golf professionals that come to visit or guests that come to visit have been how welcoming our staff is. And that's what we want to people to remember when they come to Valhalla.
Fantastic. Noel, have you come up with that one thing yet? Before we move on to budgeting, Kyle, I'm going to let you lead on budgeting. I know that's important there.
You know what? I can tell you this. One of the things that, to kind of follow up on what Kyle said, that to me is really important, to give people sort of a little bit of a personal touch and experience. That's what they remember. There's no doubt. I mean, there's things that could go wrong during the round. Obviously, you can't control how they play. But when they leave, and it's really verbal in a lot of cases. It is, making verbal contact when they come in, when they leave, during their round. Just putting a friendly face on the facility is so important. So I can't say that they don't, nobody does that but us. But I can tell you that we try to do the best job we can of that. And as a municipal golf course, it's definitely, I'm going to Crooked Stick, I'm going to Valhalla. And I am trying to take a little piece of what Tony and Kyle do and try to bring it to the town of Colony to give value to the folks that play there.
Awesome. You guys are hospitable up in Northeast New York. I know when I was campaigning, I made some of the best friends up in that neck of the woods, a place that gets ruined by the city and the hustle and bustle. But it really and truly is horse country up there in your neck of the woods too. So there's a lot of hospitality in that. Kyle, budgeting, you've been through the ringer on that, I'm sure. Talk to me about the challenge of things specific to all of us, wages. How are you competitive in that arena right now? How have you determined those price increases? I know that guest fees, accompanied guest fees have changed there recently. How have you, A, determined those numbers, and B, delivered the message both to the members and to your team as to how you're going to execute on that?
Yeah, in terms of our fees, we've really just leaned on, my network and Keith's network as far as other golf professionals. We've identified facilities that are similar to us, and we try to gauge where we are basically relative to the market. In the past, we were probably a little bit under market, and so I think we reacted to that, increasing our guest fees. Also a little bit just with supply and demand, just really trying to gauge to charge appropriately the experience we're giving, and it also that reflects the increased costs that we're seeing through wages and our maintenance budget going up with fuel prices and some of the things we're doing here on the golf course. So it's been a challenge, and it's been really good for my professional growth, but just to go through and look at every side of this budget. And Keith's been great, kind of including me on not just the golf operation, but trying to see the overall big picture, which has helped me, I think, have a better understanding of what our food and beverage operation, what they're working with, and same with our superintendent.
Fantastic. Tony, you, again, same thing, right? You all are in that same price point, but how do you make sure that you're in the right place? How do you keep up?
Yeah, it's a great question. And similar to Kyle, we call around and try to check and see what everyone else is doing. But one thing I would just caution everyone on is just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean it's right. Okay. And I think that you have to decide what makes the most sense. And let me give you a good example of that. Every member that we have thinks that we should raise the initiation fee because they've already paid it. They don't care how high it is. They've already paid it. But none of them want to raise dues. Well, from an operational standpoint, we separate our initiation fees. They go to golf course projects. Our dues go to golf course operations. And so really from an operations standpoint, we need to be raising dues, not initiation fees. So I constantly hear from our club leadership, hey, there's another club in town that's more expensive than we are. We've got to raise our rates. Well, no, we don't have to. We're trying to identify a specific type of person to become a member. And so rather than just raise our fees to then raise expectations and maybe bring in the wrong type of member, maybe we're better off lowering our initiation fee, bringing in the right guy, and then having a member for a long time that really fits in with the club. And so that's a conversation that I constantly have with our leadership at Crooked Stick. And so our initiation fee is only $60,000, and you go to Florida and it's $450,000. But $60,000 is still a lot of money. I don't think we're the most expensive club in town. Our dues are probably the highest of any club in town at $685 a month, but that's still compared to on a national level, that's unbelievably low. We're a little higher than other clubs, though. A thing to keep in mind is that we only have 225 members, and most clubs have 400. So it's a math equation, is what it is, and we as managers need to make that math equation work out, and to do it in, I guess, alignment with what the mission of the club is and membership and things like that. Hope all that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. And you've touched on something really great there. There's more than two sides to that equation as well, because you've got your 355 that you told us about, but then you've got your 225 over here that you're kind of limited to. So that's where the 685 has got to be pushed north to meet that mission. Or you can say, you know what, we can park here at 685 for a while, but that 225 might have to be 250 or 275, and then all of a sudden the 355 looks more like 420. So really, trying to package it all together there, you have to understand that everything affects the big picture. You all three have kind of touched on that in varying points of the discussion. Noel, when you're looking at it from a pricing strategy, obviously you got a cart fleet lease that you've got in front of you. Those things are never getting any cheaper. We can blame our buddy Mike Bean for that there at Yamaha, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But how do you, how are you staying ahead of it, and are you able to stay ahead of it so that you can make sure that ends meet?
Yeah, there's no doubt that, costs on everything, as we all know, are going up. So when it comes to pricing, as Tony had mentioned, yeah, you get together, you call around. I'll meet the other municipal golf professionals and managers, for coffee a couple times a year, and we kind of go over where we are, what the budgets look like, and then we all try to figure out where we can go with the pricing, because the one piece that we deal with, I guess, very similar to members, not wanting dues to go up. We have politicians that don't want to be seen as the politician that raises the rates at the Muni golf course. So, so that has happened, and it's, so we're trying to figure it. But then, we get together, we have coffee, we come up, we agree, okay, we're all going up $4 this year on greens fees, and then we'll bring that to our politicians and see what they say. And it's like, well, so-and-so is doing it and so-and-so is doing it, so you won't be the only one. So we need to do this so that we can keep operating. And of course, with municipals too, we have the other issue in that we're battling, with other expenses in the town, like ambulance tires and, things like that. So it's it's definitely a complicated budget process that requires a lot of lobbying on both myself and the board members that do play golf, that appreciate the course. And which I'm sure, again, similar to any club that's run by a board, there's certain people, hey, if I can get them on my side, I got a shot to get this through. And so there's a lot of politics involved with my job as well.
Yeah, you didn't know when you signed up to be a golf professional that politics was going to be right at the top of your list of one of those hats that you have to wear. But it's extremely important, whether you're public, private, or somewhere in between, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
So touching on, I guess this is my favorite question that I like to ask of my friends in the business is, how in the world do you know when to make a change? The format for the member guest has been the same thing for 15 years running, but it sells out. Probably not the right time to make a change. Maybe the Black Tee Championship is not as popular as it once was, or maybe it's really rising in popularity. Tony, how do you determine when to make a change in a format, when to try something a little bit different, or when to just say, man, it's going really great, let's ride the wave here?
Yeah, great question. I would say generally at private clubs, people are creatures of habit, and if you made them go in a door that they're not used to going in, they can't find their way around the clubhouse. It's amazing to me. So if you make somebody start on the 10th hole, it's like the end of the world for them. But I would say generally we try to shy away from change as much as we can. Certainly, you're always going to get some people that are encouraging change. And from a leadership standpoint, when you bring in new board members, you get a new golf chairman, you get a new house chairman. One of the things they want to do is make their mark. So I try to spend a lot of time with those new people in leadership just to give them a history of the club and what we're doing and what seems to be working. And then, when we do make change, we decide, all right, is it going to benefit the majority of the people? And because any change is going to benefit a small group of people, but is it going to benefit the majority of the people? And if it is, it's probably worth trying. If it's not really something that we think the majority of the people are going to benefit from, then we'll probably shy away from it and not do it. So it is always a balancing act trying to figure it out. But I guess in summary, we just look at what's in the best interest of the majority of the people, and then we go from there.
Yeah, there's leaving a mark, and that can be good or bad, whether it's intended or unintended. So Kyle, I really pose the same question to you. How have you seen, I'm going to spin it just a little tiny bit though. How have you seen the changes that have happened impact what members really want, or are they telling you that they want things to be different, and how do you deal with that challenge? You and I have talked about that one-on-one on the phone before. So how do you sell that change is good, and how do you protect against poor change?
Yeah, we've really we've had a lot of change here at the club. So, and it's been but I would say the change here at Valhalla has had a lot of hope behind it, right? So we've got our new partners have come in, and they've done a great job at presenting their vision for the club. So anytime, I think, when you're making a big change, if there is a vision behind that change that you can relay to your staff and the members, that goes a long way. And obviously not every single member is going to buy in. Like Tony said, there's a lot of members here at the club that they just like exactly how it was. All they want to do is tee off at 7:30. They want to play in 2 hours and 20 minutes, go grab a Coke and leave. That's all they want from the club. So in terms of when we get feedback from members, I really try to filter out if they're giving us feedback that is going to benefit them. A lot of times, I would say 90% of the feedback you get from the members, you could almost stop them and say, this really isn't a complaint. It's something that's going to benefit you or your small group of friends, right? And but I would say, in terms of tournament formatting, kind of maybe think about that. We've changed a few tournaments around just based on, I've got some feedback from different groups of members that, had a similar idea. And I really felt like they were probably looking out for the bigger picture, and it was going to have a good impact on not just their small group or the low handicappers or high handicappers. So like Tony said, I think when you're making a decision on change, if it's going to benefit the majority, you're probably making a good change.
Yeah. That's one of my absolute favorites right there is, people have been coming to me and telling me that, and this is a member at your club, by the way, that we should be doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm always thinking, okay, first of all, who are those people? Or so you and one of your buddies had this conversation 3 or 4 beers in at the bar. And then second of all, why did they anoint you captain of the change committee and the suggestion committee? Like, wouldn't they come to me as the leader here? I always love how those conversations start, and I've had to get better and better as I've gotten older at biting my bottom lip and smiling through that, because I know where that conversation is going to go with it. People have been telling me, okay, here we go, this is going to be a good one, and I always know where that conversation is going to go next. So Noel, from your standpoint, change is often dictated by a politician, it sounds like. So you're thrust into getting to deliver the news that maybe you didn't even have a ton of influence in. Is that accurate? And how do you determine when's right and when's wrong to make that and do that, or can you?
Yeah, that's a great point. And actually, the politicians tend to get involved a little bit more in terms of that's where the residents go when I change something that they don't like. So as Tony said about, the member walking into the clubhouse, in my case, there'll be phone calls at town hall if I change the 9 rotation on a Saturday morning. Right. So, then I have to explain to the town board member, what exactly I did, why I did it. So, I think, to what Kyle was saying, we need to, you've got very vocal folks when a change happens that they don't like. And I try to, before I make a change, try to get the folks that I know that will appreciate it, try to get them to be vocal, because you need that other side coming at say, whether it's a politician, whether it's a club president, whoever the major decision makers are at the facility. They need to be able to hear positive feedback to go along with any negativity that they might be getting, so that, they believe in your change and your ability to change things for the good. And as far as when, I honestly tend to lean, as Tony said, not to change much and not to rock the boat unless it's for financial reasons, unless we're losing money, because that becomes an easy sell, to the bosses. And, it's at that point, you really should be changing and trying to stay ahead of the game. But other than that, golfers are a funny breed. They are definitely set in their ways, and it is difficult to change.
Have you noticed some definitive differences in their expectations in the last 3 to 5 years specific? Like, is there any one thing or two things that stand out that has changed about the consumer? Do they want to play faster? Do they want to play earlier in the day? Do they want to, anything stand out, especially for the pandemic?
Absolutely. I mean, on my end, the biggest change is the fact that, it's the way people show up to play golf. They don't reserve tee times like they used to. They, as far as advance as they used to, they expect to, be able to make a tee time for a half hour from now. I've had folks, we're online with our tee times, and I have folks make tee times from our parking lot. They pull in, they go, okay, I want to play the blue 9 today. So, I got one at 5:40, and they'll book, so we've had to adjust with technology, where now the starters need iPads, because now they've got to see live that person from the parking lot that just booked is coming at them. Whereas we couldn't print off a sheet fast enough from the pro shop to get it down there to them. So that they wake up in the morning to see what's the weather like today. I think I want to play golf this afternoon. Whereas in the old days, it was definitely, you had a set tee sheet. You knew what was coming at you. Makes it a little bit more difficult to schedule staffing too, because you don't really know what you might have in front of you. You have to sort of guess. So we've had to be better guessers recently.
Well, you touched on the next question already, so I'm going to let you keep going here. Meanwhile, Tony and Kyle, I'm going to be asking you about your best and worst practices, so you can kind of reflect back. But Noel, as far as technology, you said you're using iPads for your starters now, whereas you used to print out a sheet of paper and that was good for the day. What other technology are you using in your business, whether it's for player development, whether it's for tee sheet management, at your cash register? Is there something that maybe we don't know about that we need to?
No, we generally are behind the curve as a municipality, but the last, say, 2 to 3 years, we've jumped on a Club Profit POS system that has the online tee times integrated, which allows us to give the starters the iPads. That's been totally necessary. We've gone with the GPS on the carts. The Shark experience from Club Car. They've been great. And for a golf course of our price point, that's that's nice. That's something that's sort of an upgrade, something people, don't expect. So, we're continually now trying to add on different types of technology features, that we can do that every year. We've set kind of a trend the last couple of years to try to, bring us right up to speed, from that technology standpoint, because it's necessary, because all of our customers have it. So we're trying to make sure that we do as well.
Yeah, you got to meet them where they are, as they say. So that's what great leaders do. Kyle, I've had a lot of really terrible ideas in my career that I've tried. And fortunately, if you're any good at what you do, you're mainly remembered for the good ones. But give me one, because none of us are perfect, something that you thought, man, this was going to be great, and it bombed. And then maybe the best idea you've had lately that somebody else on this call might be able to implement into their golf operation.
Yeah, I'm going to take my worst idea. I'm going to kind of turn it back to the staffing. And I would say it's probably more of a behavior on my part. I think the worst thing that I found is when you get pressure from management to maybe, especially when you're looking at your labor costs, there's pressure on labor cost. Sometimes you get either it's you could have a board member, a club owner, a manager that starts counting heads, right? Here at Valhalla, we're trying to provide high level service. And I would say, when you start worrying too much about counting heads and what are people doing, you can start kind of micromanaging. And I would say for me, it's I did a poor job of kind of letting that pressure, I impose that pressure on the staff, right? So then you kind of create an environment of, is what's going on? Why is he so worried about this? Right. So I kind of learned pretty quick. I started looking at the staff and saying, wow, my actions are really affecting them, and they're not providing, now they're not going out of their way to provide the service. What's changed? And then you kind of think, okay, I'm getting this pressure on, I would say, like I said, counting heads, right? But what really it's me doing a better job of saying, I've got my budget, I know my plan, this is why we're doing it. And it's just having to, I would say for me, just kind of going to that person and saying, here's our plan, this is why, really explaining the why. And once I've done that, some of that pressure's come off me, which has allowed the staff to, go back and perform.
Absolutely. I love what you said there. Know your why. I'm just kind of making a note of that. That's a great reminder for me personally, and I'm sure others. What's that best golf idea that you've seen or implemented recently that you can let us in on the secret?
The best that we've got here, I really, going back to maybe a piece of technology for us that I rely on all the time is we use Tag Marshal here at the club. It's a very easy system for us to use that tracks pace of play. For us, it's got the flexibility to give caddies a walking tag. It gives the carts have a GPS tag in them as well. So really, as we've one of the biggest pushes here at the club has been pace of play. So our pace of play is 4:15. We've been on cart paths only for 2 seasons, so that obviously creates a challenge in terms of pace of play. So, when we're monitoring pace and talking to members and then kind of following up, it's really nice to have easy data. And that's what I would say. I've really been happy with how easy the system is for us to use.
Awesome. All right. So Tag Marshal is at the top of your list. Tony, you don't get to be the golf professional of the year without making a bogey or 2 along the way. But I know there's some eagles to talk about. So give us maybe a bogey and then a really successful point here.
Yeah, this was like a quad or worse, but it was 1988. I was the new head professional at Valhalla. The Callaway rep comes in and he says, hey, I've got this new club. It's called a Heavenwood, and it's going to change golf. And I'm like, well, we don't sell many clubs here, so I'll take 2 or 3 of them. And he said, and I said, we'll see how they go. He said, well, no, we only sell them in packs of 12. And I said, well, no, I only need 2 or 3. And I'm the customer here, so I'll take that. And he said, no, Tony, you don't understand. I can only sell you this if you get 12 of them. I said, well, guess we're not doing any business. And by the way, no need to call on me anymore. I thought, hey, I'm the customer. I'm going to show this guy. Well, the next day, our owner, Dwight Game, came in and said, Tony, I want a Heavenwood. So I called the Callaway rep back and said, I guess we'll take a dozen of them because I had to get one for our owner. And then by the end of the year, we'd sold over 130 Callaway Heavenwoods. So I was a little bit rude to the guy, and I wish I had that moment back. And sometimes you're going to get frustrated with what you do, but there's no reason to let that kind of impact a long-term relationship. I could have handled it so much better. I could have said no, and I could have been encouraging to him because sometimes we think we have the right answer, and then we find out the next day that we didn't have the right answer. So you might as well have a good relationship with the people rather than having a bad one. So that's my kind of one where I'd love to have a mulligan. In terms of an idea that we've implemented, I'm not sure it's a great idea, but at the first hole at Crooked Stick, there's out of bounds along the left side, and on the right side is our range. So we've got Pro V1 balls out there in the middle of the range. People were slicing their ball into the range, couldn't find it. They were getting frustrated, slows down play, really makes it difficult for us to get people off the first tee. So what we decided, members said, why don't you go to yellow range balls? And I'm like, we can't do that at Crooked Stick. I mean, we've got 150 guys that are single digit handicap players. They're not going to want to hit yellow balls. So what we did was just the opposite of that. We put yellow balls on the first tee. So when you come to the first tee, you can play your white ball if you want, or you can use one of our yellow balls. It's a Pro V1, yellow Pro V1, and you can play the first hole with it. And if you slice it over to the range, you can go right out there and find it and hit it right up on the green. And after you finish the first hole, you drop it in a bucket, and then we recycle the balls.
Do the neighbors over there on the left-hand side of number one bring the yellow balls back to you or throw them over the fence, or how's that turn out?
Well, they do now because we write on the side of the ball, this is a crooked stick, first tee ball only. So now they do bring them back. But in the early days, they played them.
I love it. I love it. Noel, where might you want your mulligan, and what are you doing great that we need to know about?
Well, kind of I guess a funny story that was probably the biggest mistake that I've made and certainly learned from early in my career is, being 36 holes, we're able to book multiple outings at the same time. And I had, this is going back to when, I want to say it was right around 2000 because they were still alive, but we always did the annual sub-vets tournament. All the World War II sub-vets that were still alive in the nation would come to our place and they'd have their event. It was a 3-day event, which was just a great day for the course. They loved it, but I decided to really fill the course and it was always July 4th weekend. I decided to fill the course and throw the Korean Catholic Church outing on the other side, which not even thinking that was going to cause the problem that it did. The conflicts that occurred all over the course, in the shop, and then it escalated to the point where they were firing golf balls from one hole into the Korean Catholic Church's outing on the other 9. It was just a nightmare. So needless to say, that was the worst scheduling mistake I've ever made. And I certainly learned from that to vet any outings I go to put together on the same day at our facility. Fortunate to be able to do it, but you do have to be careful. As far as best idea, that was probably something that I took from some local restaurants. I know they do it all over the country. Those charity days or nights that you could have at a restaurant, say for your local Little League or any kind of charity where it's here they would call it dine to donate. So the restaurant would donate 10% back to the charity for the money that they took in on that evening. So I did that, trying to fill our weekend afternoons at our golf course. So I called it Fairways for Fundraising. So what we did was we opened up our golf course on a Saturday and Sunday afternoon for a charity. We got the town to donate 10% back to the charity for all of the greens fee, cart, range income for the folks that came from that organization. It was great because it was a way to market without needing to pay for it other than the 10%. And those days are full. We hit COVID and all of a sudden we realized we really didn't need to do that anymore because players were now coming out on the weekend afternoons, but we kept it going because it was really great for community. Being a municipal golf course, that was really important to our politicians again. So so that Fairways for Fundraising was a great way to fill a golf course on our summer weekend afternoons.
Well, this has been a historic day. Not only do we have the Golf Professional of the Year, but we also have the only World War III survivor on the call here. So who knew what a day this would be. Tony, I know you kind of kicked off the call with something that's near and dear to my heart, and you're way better at it than I am, clearly, because you're in Cabo right now, and my family's on a ski trip without me. So what does that say about our best practices? But seriously, the minute I reached out to Tony, he said, you know what, I'm on vacation in through there, but I'll be happy to participate. Just, here are my travel days and I'll carve out a little bit of time. So tell us about that work-life balance and just kind of open the floor for you to share and help us all get better.
Yeah, I appreciate you letting me talk about this. It's so important to me, and it's based on my experience of being a golf professional for 38 years. And when I first became a head golf professional, I thought, hey, I had to be at work at 7 a.m. until 8 o'clock at night and just not miss anybody that played golf. And all my self-improvement was focused on teaching better, playing better, merchandising better, managing better. And then what I realized is I was neglecting my family. And I also was not, I wasn't, my faith wasn't a high enough priority. And just thanks to encouragement from my wife and from some other people, I changed all that around, and it has had such a positive impact on my career. And what I've found is that I'm way better at work, and my staff is way better at work if things are better for them from a faith and from a family standpoint. So I would just really encourage everyone to make that a high priority. I mean, I thought when I got into the golf business, there's no way I could go to church on a Sunday morning because it's a busy time at a golf course, at least at most private clubs. And what I've found is that I can still be present. I mean, right now at Crooked Stick, I get there at 6:30 on Sunday morning. I see everybody that tees off before 9. I go to church with Libby and the kids, and I come back at 11. And the first thing I do is I go start on 18 and ranger the course backwards. And the people that I miss teeing off in the morning, I see them out on the golf course, and they know I go to church. They actually have embraced that for me, and they think it's a really a good thing that for the club. It helps me do my job better. I'm better at forgiveness. I'm better at anger control, things like that. And so it's just it's something that's really helped me out. And then, the family thing of, I missed a lot of my older kids' games, and I have so much regret for that. I've not missed hardly any of Annabelle's stuff because she's so much younger than the rest of our kids. But if you have kids and they're playing on a soccer team or a baseball team or playing golf, get out there and watch them. Your club will support that, even though you wonder whether they will. I promise you they will. And the other benefit to it is your staff's going to get better because you're not there. You're giving them more responsibility. They're learning to be a manager, and it's going to help them do a better job for you and for your club.
Fantastic advice, and thanks for speaking up and being brave enough to share. I know when I was campaigning and you start down that pathway, there were folks who are like, there's no way you can ever do that. That won't work. We can't be talking about this. And I said, well, we can or we can't. It's your choice. I'm going to, and we'll see where it leads. And good for you for being a leader in that space. General advice, Kyle, you've got young folks, interns, 3 or 4 of them every year that you're bringing in. What would you tell them, both personally and professionally, is the best thing that they can do to advance their career forward and help them improve on self?
I would say I tell our staff, try to keep their energy for the golf profession as much as possible. I think when everybody has seen it, when your staff starts to get burnt out on golf, very similar to what Tony was saying, it's either, try to step away, focus on yourself, focus on your family, get recharged, reach out to other professionals to get advice, to kind of recharge your battery. I think that's one of the toughest parts about this industry. It's not just the grind, but sometimes it's, just as you get drained, like Tony says, you get a little crankier. You're quicker to make bad decisions or kind of get snippy with a member, right? So I would say biggest advice to young professionals is try to understand of why you got in the business in the first place. Why did you go to a PGM university? Try to focus on that. Because that should be your source of energy. So whether it's playing golf, being around the game, or just taking care of people, just to focus on, like you said, Kelly, focus on the why.
Absolutely. And before I open the floor to Noel on this, if there's anybody who has a question that maybe I haven't touched on throughout our time together today, please feel free to type it in the messages in the chat feature. And we'll save a couple of minutes here when we're done to touch on those questions. So go ahead and fire those in there. And Noel, I know Max is quite a baseball player. You made a lot of games. You made time for watching him catch and chase his career. But how do you make time for Betty and the kids and everything else that you have to get done in a day?
Well, I tell you that honestly is part of the reason why I'm on the Muni side of the industry. It provides a little bit of a different lifestyle. For example, my weekends are, I might work 8 to 10 hours on Saturday and Sunday, but I can dictate which 8 to 10 hours they are. So I can come in, open up, get to, when I was going to Max's game, I could coach third base. I could do that. I could go back, finish out the outing, give them the bill, and then get home and go out to dinner with Betty. So it's that really appealed to me from a family standpoint, because I was tracking kind of on the private side of the industry. And of course, back when we were assistants, there really wasn't any talk of quality of life. We basically just were at the golf course all the time. So we've learned, and we better have learned, because otherwise we won't be able to keep any staff and assistants going forward. I mean, we have to be very aware of that with those that we hire and employ. And it's and what I would say to them is to be excited about the golf industry right now. I mean, there's so few really good people coming into the industry right now that the pathway forward for them is going to be quick, and it's going to be great. It's not like when we were coming up and there were 40 resumes for the third assistant position. It's they will have the ability to shine if they just stick with it and do a great job, just because of the lack of numbers. So they should be excited if they love golf and think they want to be in the golf industry.
Yeah, it's gone from a difficult time to being a difficult time for totally different reasons and a brighter future in a very short few years, to say the least. So that's a fantastic point. Before I ask each of you for any additional closing comments, I think Connie's still on the call here. If you could make sure, if we need to have a link for people to register that they were here, if you've got that taken care of, Connie, fine. If it needs to be put in the chat feature, you can do it. It's up to you.
Kelly, I have everyone already written down.
You're on top of it and ahead of the game as always. So thank you, staff, for always taking care of us, looking after us. Closing comments from each of you, and in no specific order, does anybody want to lead us here? Anything we didn't touch on that you felt like we should have? Not all at once here.
Hey, Kelly, maybe the one thing that I would address is compensation for assistant golf professionals. I know that's it's improved a lot for assistants, but on the other hand, that makes it difficult for us as managers, as we're a head professional director of golf and trying to balance those budgets. So I loved what Noel said about, just giving your employees a great experience. Not you just can't work them all the time like we used to. But we need to be creative. We don't necessarily have to pay more. We can just create a better experience for our employees. So maybe that's a way to consider that. Could be time away from the club. It could be different responsibilities that they have at the club. It could be providing a housing stipend or something like that, as opposed to competing strictly on wages. It could be ability to take members on golf trips. There's just a lot of different ways that you can make somebody's job more enjoyable. And we don't only have to focus on compensation to attract quality assistant golf professionals.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. The fringe benefits, as those are called, are extremely important to making sure that your job is attractive, especially if it lines up right in with 3 other jobs with the exact same comp value. You've got to be able to differentiate in some way. Kyle or Noel, who else would like to go first with another closing statement or two?
Yeah, I'll go, Kelly. Just to follow up on what Tony said, I mean, it really is important to have a culture, that the employees in particular that you have, and especially your assistants, for them to enjoy their time with you. It's and I need to do a better job at it. I think back to when I was an assistant, the best times I had, whether it was traveling to play tournaments with my head professional or just going on a golf trip with them, the time spent together and with the other, local assistants too. I mean, you need to promote that sort of networking as well. I don't think our local assistants do a good enough job, and they're not as tight as we used to be. So I'd really like to see them and promote getting them together, so they can get together and complain about us, or the job, or vent and enjoy, so that was a big part of why I stayed in the golf business, and we really do need to foster that relationship. And also, as a closing comment, I do want to say, for all of you in Kentucky or anywhere, if you're coming up for the rare occurrence of the Belmont being in northeastern New York this year, please reach out to me. Kelly's got my info. If you need tee times, if you need hotels, if you need advice on restaurants, we're thrilled to welcome the world to Saratoga, New York, for the Belmont this year. It's a rarity. It's going to be at least this year, possibly two, depending on how that track comes down in New York. But love to have everybody up.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. Kyle, closing comments.
Well, I just want to say, Kelly, thanks for putting this together, and thanks for including me with Tony and Noel. Certainly, I learned a ton from them. I would just say, as it relates to, keeping yourself educated, looked at maybe outside the industry. I've been lucky enough. One of our owners is David Novak, who's got a great leadership podcast that I listen to often, and he gives me plenty of great book ideas as well. And that's really helped me grow professionally, and kind of, I like to listen to audiobooks as I clean the house and pick up all the little kids' toys and do laundry and all the fun stuff we get to do. So I think that's kind of helped me grow quite a bit and try to keep my energy up. But just looking outside the industry as well for great ideas that people are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of wrap all this up, I wrote one thing. Well, I wrote a lot of things down, but one thing that I underlined several times was all three of our panelists today referred to their network. And this professional network that we have and we're developing is so important to our success, because it takes good ideas. It truly takes a village. And I've heard all three of you refer back to those who have mentored you or those who you mentor. So I hope everybody kind of keeps that in mind. I see a lot of names on this call that I do know, and several names that I don't know. And I think what I've learned through my career is that when you can pick up the phone and call a Tony Pancake, he'll answer. Whether you're at some place that he's never heard of, or you're at Valhalla that he used to be the head golf professional, he would love to help you and talk to you. And the same goes for Kyle, and the same goes for Noel. And probably the most used tool that I have is PGA.org in that directory function. I am notorious for reading something in a magazine and searching that golf professional and calling them and saying, hey, you don't know me, but I want to steal your idea. And people love to talk about what they're good at, and they want to share with you, and they want to see you be successful. So I can say in total 100% confidence, each one of these panelists today will take your call. They would love to hear from you. And whether you're public, private, or somewhere in between, they'll be a great resource to you. So gentlemen, thank you so much. Tony, congratulations again on behalf of the Kentucky section for being our PGA of America Golf Professional of the Year.
Thank you.
Noel for being our World War III vet on the call today. And Kyle, we're uber excited to see what you and the team at Valhalla are going to deliver to the world here in a few short months in May with the PGA Championship. So thanks so much. Appreciate everyone, and stay tuned. We'll be doing this again. Like I said, the 26th, we'll have a teaching seminar here at Greenbrier, 9 to noon. Make sure you register for that if you haven't already. That's rescheduled. And then also we've got a general manager panel It's good for assistant golf professionals. Anyone who manages people will get something out of that. So just because it's 3 GMs, I would encourage anybody and everybody to log into that one as well. So thanks, everybody. Have a great, Tuesday, and a great rest of your week and a great 2024.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Kelly.
Kelly.
Appreciate you all.